There was another development around 28th of June 2023, when its wreckage was recovered and brought to land. Many are curious about the recovered human remains. And how was this wreckage recovered from the sea floor? As this wreckage lied almost 4 kilometers depth in the sea. And what does this wreckage discovery tells us? First of all, let's talk about how this wreck was salvaged. From the great depths of the ocean, ROVs were used for this purpose. Remote-operated vehicles, or commonly sea drones. Sea drones aren't exactly these things, and we may call them so for now. ROVs are basically robots with arms. You can operate the ROVs and their arms remotely via joystick of controller. This is not the first instance of this kind. ROVs have been used pretty regularly for different purposes. These ROVs were operated from the vessel Horizon Arctic. Horizon Arctic was the mother vessel carrying these ROVs. And she was well equipped to operate them too. She launched ROVs at the wreck site. The ROV descended to 3.8 kilometers depth. ROVs made several trips to bring the wreckage of Titan. The wreckage was gathered on board the ship. This job was not as easy as it seems. Open sea may be very hostile. There can be rough seas, variable currents and sea swell. And finding and taking out wreckage from such great depths is not an easy task. This operation took around 10 days to complete. For 10 days the ROVs made several trips to salvage the wreckage. That was then loaded on board. And thence brought to Newfoundland, Canada. And thence offloaded to trucks on land. And taken away for further investigations. This is a US-led investigation, so naturally this wreckage will be sent to US for forensic experts to examine the wreckage and to find out the factors that led to the implosion. I have explained about implosion in previous video. This implosion cost 5 lives. Now let's talk about the wreckage that was salvaged from the sea floor. I will come to presumed human remains in a minute. Initially it was told that 5 recognizable pieces have been recovered. Apart from many small pieces though, seeing all the photos and videos, it's indeed 5 recognizable pieces. I got all these photos from CBC, CNN and BBC. And I will give them due credit on the photos and clips. One more thing to consider beforehand. Titan Submersible had 2 shells. Just like our ships, one is inner and the other is outer. The pressurized inner capsule was inside the visible outer shell. This was rounded carbon fiber tube with titanium end caps. All the 5 visitors were seated inside this tube. The usually visible shell was the outer shell. This large visible piece belongs to the outer cladding. It's not a piece from the inner capsule that imploded. The outer shell is just like a dressing or cladding. To mask the cables, pipes, wires, electronics, antennae etc. This is to give the vehicle a more appealing look. The electronics bay was housed in the tail of this submersible. This bay contained batteries, electronics, communication equipment, oxygen tanks, and the Iridium satellite phone. This phone works only once you are at the sea surface. This won't work once she is submerged though. Iridium never connected to satellite, which means this submersible never surfaced. A large portion of this electronics bay has also been recovered. In previous video I shared the messages the Titan sent to her mother vessel. In one of those messages Titan told her mother vessel that they were releasing their landing frames. Those frames have been recovered in a very good shape. This is probably because the frames were released. If not released, it may have been found in bad shape though. The recovered frames are in pristine condition. They are neither broken, nor bent or deformed. Just a moment ago I mentioned the inner capsule where the occupants of the submersible had to sit. The tube was constructed of carbon fiber, with titanium end caps. One of the photos of recovered wreckage shows one end cap. This is the front end cap. This was the end cap with viewport. We call it porthole, or simply speaking window to see outside. So this is the one end cap that was recovered. In this next photo you can see a ring-like structure. This is one of the rings that joined. Titanium end caps with the carbon fiber tube. One side of this ring was attached to the end cap, and the other side was attached to the carbon fiber hull or tube. These rings were also connected to the landing frames. The landing frame that was released by Titan. These photos haven't been released officially. People made videos when this loading, unloading operation was going on. The dock labor did their best to hide the debris under sheets. But the bigger pieces couldn't be hidden completely. The debris contained many smaller bags. These might contain the smaller fragments that shattered after implosion. As for the carbon fiber hull, apparently we cannot see a bigger piece that could have been recovered. Let's talk about the presumed human remains now. United States Coast Guard issued a statement, in which they said that amongst all the wreckage they recovered from sea floor, there are human remains too. These will also be examined to find out what actually happened, and of course to whom they belong to. We don't have any photos depicting such, and neither were they released. We just have a statement. Even the statement talks about presumed human remains. That means some remains have been found that are presumed to belong to a human. After the release of this statement, most of you have asked me one thing. That how could human remains survive after an implosion? First of all, we have no idea how big or recognizable these remains are. That's the first thing we don't know. Apparently they're not recognizable. Implosion will squash a human. It's not like a big part of human torso was found or something. Implosion is catastrophic by nature. And every catastrophe may leave something to tell the story. As for the human life, of course none was left. But if some human remain survived this, I don't think it's something we maybe so cool.